the former governor of Rivers State. He says his spirit has left the government house. I have a video to play here before I give my thoughts on this.
You see how better I look? Looking at the president, if I have my way, I say it's here. It's a matter of God. I don't want to show back there. My spirit has left that place, not to go. So all this, I want everybody to focus. Please. It's not everything you do with it. There's some fight you don't fight. Don't you see how better I look?
All right. In a video, you hear him saying, "Don't you see how better I look?" And he keeps, he goes on to say, "My spirit has left the government house." Fubara is someone who I have some love for. I have some love for him, because of the way he handled the former governor Wike, Yesom Wike. I had a lot of love for him, right? Until my love turned to something else. I'm not gonna say hate, because hate is a very powerful word, right? But my love just turned sour on him because of the way he let the government, or the previous government, try to tell him what to do, even though he didn't do any of them, though. But the way they manhandled him, he is the sitting governor, and sitting governors have a lot of power, and ultimately he was removed. This is the first time ever that a sitting governor has been removed. Maybe I'm mistaken here with my facts, but somebody please let me know. But this is the first time ever that a sitting governor, an elected governor, has been removed by the president, and there's no outrage. Zero outrage. An elected person was removed by the president. So who removes the president if he's out of line then? If the president can remove a governor, a sitting governor who was also elected, just like you were, who removes the president if he goes out of line, or if she goes out of line? So that's where my love for him turned sour. I don't know what he could have done different. I'm not a governor. I've never been a governor, but I just believe, that a few things could have been done different by him. Maybe using lawyers, using serious lawyers, not using serious lawyers. And at the time, we saw him aligning with the likes of Asari Dokubo, which is again another former militant, right? We saw him aligning with him, making him a chief in the state, a first-class chief, meaning he's entitled to some things in the state. That was really weird to me at the time, right? And those were the things that made my love for him turn sour. Because those are not the type of people you should be aligning yourself, especially being a very educated person, being a very enlightened person. The people you should be aligning yourselves with would be the SANs, the SAN, the SANs, the Senior Advocates of Nigeria. Those were the people you could have been aligning yourself with for situations like this, to make sure that situations like this don't happen, to argue it in court and see if the president has that right to remove you as a sitting president. If there were any things that were done out of line, it should be argued in court while you are still sitting. If you did those things, or if he did those things, I believe he would still be the governor till this day. But instead, he wanted to use force. He wanted to show some type of force. And he aligned himself with Asari Dokubo, who, in my opinion, has been two-faced. He's all over the place. He's here today, he's here tomorrow, he's back here today, he's back here tomorrow. He doesn't have a side, right? No morals, zero morals. That's the kind of person he is, and that's the person you're going to align with. And what has he given you? It's made you the ex-governor. You didn't even finish your first tenure, and you were removed by a president. I think that's a very shameful way to lose your position as a governor. And I'm not going to say he deserves it, but if he had done some things differently, I believe he would still be the sitting governor of Rivers State. And Rivers State is dear to me because that's where I was born. That's where I grew up. That's pretty much where I know. That's where I call home. If I go to Nigeria today, that's where I'm going to visit. That it's dear to me. So I'm going to speak on that, right? but yeah, currently now they have the administrator. They call it an administrator, a military person or ex-military person, becoming the administrator of the state. It's ridiculous. I called my mom today and I asked her how you guys. I think it was my dad. I asked him how you guys are enjoying the administrator in Rivers State. He's like, it's just the same old politics. There's nothing really has changed. It's just the same old. But at least the good thing is there's relative peace in the state. There's relative peace in the city of Port Harcourt. There's not a lot of violence going on. There's not a lot of disruptions to businesses and people's properties and stuff like that. So that's a positive. At least I can take away from that. And again, just to give kudos to Fubara, at least he didn't gaslight the people into turning the state into a war zone. That's something that's some positive and something I'm gonna applaud him for, because it could be a different person and they would turn the state into a war zone, right? So kudos to you, Fubara, for not turning the state into some firehouse where everywhere is burning. So shout out to you on that.